Dave, want to wait, or is that a wait one or?
Go.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll go.
I was there.
Good evening, it's May 19th, and it is 5:15, so we will start our county commissioners meeting. Let's stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And roll call, we have 6 commissioners present, and Commissioner Larry is present by Zoom. All right, the first order of business is to accept and approve with a waiver of the reading of the minutes. Let's take these dates separately, if you don't mind. Let's start with April 21st.
Move to accept and approve with a waiver of a reading of the minutes. Our meeting dated April 21st, 2021.
A second?
Second, Roland.
Thank you. And any discussion about those minutes? Okay, all in favor of accepting those minutes? And a voice vote, please, from Zoom? No. Just 1 second, we can't hear you, Commissioner Larry. I think Dave's working on it. Yeah,
also a big box
actually,
in the middle.
yeah, we can't see him or.
No,
it's
sorry.
just- yeah.
So. You guys talk just for a second?
Yes.
Can you hear us at all? I'm sorry. Let's see.
No pressure.
Can I be heard now? Can you hear me now?
I'm gonna fix that.
Dave, can you hear me?
Working on it.
Okay, thank you.
That's one thing I forgot to do is the mic speaker. Take. Yeah, the microphone plugged into there.
Is it working now? Do you want me to keep talking?
Just keep talking so I can hear you. This needs to-
Okay. I'm glad to hear you're back. Sorry that you had to deal with all that.
Thank you. The closet doesn't record.
Glad you're all right. Like,
Yes, thank you so much.
so are things quiet at the county or are things pretty busy for you?
It's busy. I'm still playing catch up.
Yeah, I bet. Well, it's sure a challenge no matter what. I'm sure with all the you got on your plate. So I'll keep talking, but normally it's not exactly easy to talk about nothing. So I'll wait. But,
Right. So
yeah, I'm checking. It's saying waiting, and it doesn't show me muted on my end. Do you want me to keep talking again? I don't know what all you're.
No, I'm all set for the moment.
Okay.
All right, speakers.
Thank you for doing this, Mr. Cody. If you can tell them that that I did have a concern with the minutes, well, go ahead and wait. I'm just, if they go ahead and move along, I want them to wait because there is an issue with the minute. Just to let you know, there's a lot of echo cycling sort of feedback sound. Just I figure I gotta let you know.
Okay, how does it sound now?
That's better, yeah. I don't know if they can hear me though.
All right, let's give this a go.
That working now?
How far would you like us to go back as far as voting on the minutes?
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure how much you heard and didn't hear, so how far would you like us to go back? To make sure-
We didn't vote on the April 21st minutes yet, from what I remember.
Okay, so you
We just
heard-
moved in second.
I wanna make sure you heard up to that point. Okay, let's.
Okay, so
One step. during the discussion.
Which one's doing it?
still doing it. Madam, I can't hear anything. There's an issue with the minutes. We did not go into executive session pursuant to Title I MRSA 4056 Section 6 subsection C. There was nothing stated. We just went into executive session without stating the title as required by FOA. I don't know if you could hear me, but we did not go into executive session under Title I MRSA Section 4056 subsection C as required by FOA. We just went into executive session. That was all.
So the motion to go into executive session because of missing that survey. The motion made to go into executive session with missing the verbiage, is that what your issue is with that?
It was missing the reference which is required to be in the motion. We're required to reference both the purpose of it and also the actual subsection, and we did not reference anything. We just went into executive session. So I just want that corrected, that it should just say motion to enter into executive session and strike the rest.
Well, no, there was a motion, there was a second at 7:00.
I don't see anything about a second by anyone, or well, yeah, Medora Kelly 7-0, but it should not state Title I or pursuant to Title I MRSA Section 4056 subsection C. That was not listed at all in the motion. I watched the video.
Let's make sure on the minutes that is noted, and let's go back to taking the vote. All in favor of accepting the minutes with that notation? Opposed? And,
Thank you.
Verbally, please, by Zoom.
No, thank you.
Has to be this one.
Six, and that is 6-1. Okay, let's move on to May. Go ahead.
Why?
And discussion about May.
I'd like the minutes for May 5th through, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'd like the May 5th minutes to reflect that Commissioner Larry joined the meeting after warrants due to no Zoom being available and short notice being given because of that. In other words, I wasn't late. There was no ability to log in.
Well, no, we want to change to.
Commissioner,
They can't, sorry.
Commissioner Larry.
Yeah.
We are right if we just change the minute to say that you were among those who were present but not be there. Because you appear to not be present, but actually were.
I can barely hear what you're saying. I can only get little snips and shots of it. So I'm real concerned. I'm not sure. I'm using the same device I've always used, so it must be on the other end, unfortunately. But basically, I went to log in and I find out that there's no Zoom and nobody contacted the commissioners and let them know that things are getting changed around. So I just want it reflected that there was no Zoom available to log into. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry. I know what the cause is. I just don't know how to fix it.
I'm not sure what's going on.
She would love to vote on this
Okay.
as ever.
The minutes as written. Is there a second to that?
Someone's not working.
I'm gonna vote against the others.
Motion, I just wanted to-
Madam Chair, I don't think it's a difficult thing to fix. I vote no, and I wish the minutes to reflect that staff did not make sure that commissioners would be able to call in. And that was not Mr. Cody, that was the administrator. So I'm disappointed that commissioners weren't contacted ahead of time and let know, other than an email at 2 or 3. So a little disappointed. Thank you.
All right, let's move on.
Make a motion to approve the warrants as presented, of which includes payroll.
Second. Any question about the warrants? Okay, let's vote. All in favor of accepting the warrants? Raise your hand, please. And Commissioner Larry?
I vote no, and I ask the chair to have the minutes reflect that the audio is very bad. I can barely hear anything that's being said, and that's not following the MMA guidance that was referenced back in February to keep people out of the commissioner meetings, keep the public out. So I wish the minutes to reflect that. Thank you.
Audio is bad. Okay.
That's all.
No, if you're able to without too much echo, you can
It's just feedback from the speakers to the microphones.
Can we turn these off?
Can we turn the microphones off?
We're gonna have to. Turn it. There's master volume. Shut it all the way off. No, he's doing it here. Speakers. That's who's doing it.
The Lincoln County Commissioner Association, how much to report? One of the things
Thank you.
we're talking about is about their policy about the review of the documents. So we have sort of our policy, you could say, and they've been debating for months about what to do about the policy. Currently, you have to like get a copy. It's very controlled. And you basically can't just see the policy and get a copy of it and hold on to it. You have to like have a copy, return the copy, and go there to see it. And I have no opinion either way. I think it makes sense why they did it. It's cumbersome for sure, but anyway, so not much to report there. There's an update on what's going on in the legislature. Governor has had some big plans. So they've shown support, which impacts us because of the income, our property taxes. They've been talking about that. So state aid education, as you might know, a while back, the citizen initiative process passed 55% education reimbursement from the state to municipalities. State has never quite gotten there. You could say that either way, a little subjective on that, but for the most part, they have not. So she's proposing to use some, the better forecasts of income from the state, tied with some federal money to aid to fill that void, including revenue sharing, which is good for us because it's property tax relief in the end. And so things that when we change our tax rate, say it goes up, it really gets mitigated a bit with the release of pressure on municipalities. And there's a lot of bills, and legislature has a lot to do in a short amount of time. It's really all I have to report.
Very good.
The document review, is that the MCCA documents or the risk pool documents?
Sorry, that's the risk pool. Yeah. Yeah, I guess some of it is like they don't want to make it too easy to sue them, right? And so if you know what their policy covers and does not cover, and in great detail, then and it's readily available, then it kind of opens that up a little bit. They're explaining it to me. And so if you're like thinking about suing some county, I guess it's kind of good to know what's covered and not covered in terms of how much money you're going to get. Something happened a while back. I don't know if it has to do with front relationship between the counties and the risk pool or whatnot. I really don't know what's the history in there, but I know why it came up is because Cumberland County, I think it's something to do with leasing property for a homeless shelter, and they were worried about the risk involved with that. And so there's discussion about they wanted to see what would be covered. I think it was that or the opiates center that they had, but maybe just the homeless shelter. And so they want to know what was covered. So it was a little cumbersome for them. They didn't really like that. So I could see both ways, but seemed fine to me.
Any other questions about the MCCA report? Okay, Central Maine Workforce Board, Mr. Kelly.
I have nothing at this time.
Yes. You think she's report? Yeah, ask, talk to the board. Oh, no, that means it's
Sorry, one more. I did send an email to the board of the sort of legislative update from the lobbyist attorney, and it included a list of a lot of bills. And so you can review that, and I guess, yeah. Send it this afternoon around 4.
yes. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to read it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Treasurer's report. Okay, so for the end of April, all departments are within budget. We were, past now, but we have borrowed 2.5 million on the TN. So revenues, which I don't usually talk about, and I decided I should. Deeds, fees, and real estate tax fees are both over budget already. Probate is on budget, so we're back in line with probate.
for their fees. And we have received our first tax payment from Livermore Falls, which is super early, which I'm not complaining. So we're in pretty good shape. And that's all for the report. I do have a page that I have given out on the relief funds. And I'm not gonna really talk in detail about it. You can read it through. I know it's kind of last minute, so I'll give you a chance to read through it. Ask me, send me an email if you want to call me, whatever, if you have questions. At the time of this writing, we had not received our money. We have received our first allocation. And just to let you know, the overall idea of the whole focus of the whole grant is they make it very clear that all programs and services need to respond to COVID itself or the effects of COVID, either economic or health. So that's everything. They keep saying it all the way through the guidance. It needs to respond to COVID. So if you have any questions on that, it is, they're calling it, this is the feds, right? Interim final rule, how it's interim and it's final, all in the same title. They are accepting comments, but they didn't even give a date on the end of the comments for it. So would change slightly, but I think you'll find the focus is going to stay the COVID responding. So I think maybe as questions come up, maybe they'll have more uses included. So that's what we have right now.
Questions for the treasurer?
Chair.
The page that you provided, was it just one page?
Yep, I'm the one that gave it that.
Okay, yeah, no, it's just that I wondered if there was a previous page, but thank you.
No, I was actually just gonna read it through and I decided to let you guys, I know it's kind of last minute, so I thought maybe you'd want to read through it and then ask questions.
Mr. Foltz, could you have Sandy scan that and make sure Commissioner Mary gets copies of that page from the treasurer?
Excuse me, Commissioner. Commissioner Larry wants to say
go
something, but it's not gonna be super loud. They're not trying to play through my laptop.
We'll listen.
So I will try to increase as much as possible.
Thank you. Okay to speak, Madam Chair?
Yeah, he wants to, he's asking to speak.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Treasurer, thank you for getting information for us. Have any of the timelines changed for how fast the Fed wants us to spend this money? Because I remember there was like a deadline before we kind of were talking about. And I realize as the Fed changes their guidance, we have to jump through new hoops, but kind of where are we at in this stage? And have we received the money yet? I was hearing that the checks were sent out.
Yeah, we had direct deposit and it went into our account this morning.
Okay.
Brand new information. And the funds need to be obligated by December 31st, 2024. The projects need to be completed by 2026.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
we do have some time to be thoughtful about how we're spending
Yes.
this money, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Good question. Yes.
I asked Louise exactly, but I noticed the line for improvements was over budget by $55,000. Curious as to what that's around, what that consists of.
What's that?
You had stated that the line for building and building improvements was over by about $55,000. So I was curious as to that. It's the last line on your report. It's in the jail section.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, jail, building improvements, $55,000. I mean, I don't know if it's really you or
It's a little me.
imagine you were part of it.
Oh, a little bit.
I actually know I've had a conversation about that, but right at the top of my head, it's not coming to me. So can I email you the answer?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay,
Yeah, or I don't know if they,
I
you
know
know, or Gil engineers, if you thought on it, or I'm not concerned about it. I'm just wondering, trying to get my head around what it is. What was unanticipated?
I don't think it's gonna end up being that much over, but I think it has to do with the heating.
That should be it.
Sarah's ready to
Yeah.
go for it.
We think it's actually to do with the body scan.
No,
Okay.
that was under, equipment.
I don't know. That's the problem with the gym, like, a lot of people have access to it, so something like that, and the heating system, I don't even, has that been done yet?
It's in process right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they've done yet. We made payments on it so far.
Would it be over budget because the money hasn't been taken from reserve to offset that? Because I know we made a payment.
There's 2 copies. This one. This is the second copy.
Are you okay with giving her?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, I'll
I'm interested in the
email.
answer, but
Okay, great. Any other questions? All right, and where we had that report, the summary report that's required a vote this week, right?
yes.
The signatures on
My
vote.
treasure.
Okay, so a motion to accept, this is the week where we got the report, and it's in the packet of warrants. So a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So-
Mr. Kelly and Noel Cador. And all in favor? And we're short one commissioner and voice confirmation, Commissioner Larry?
Opposed, thank you.
Pros.
Could you repeat that?
Opposed.
Sign it? No?
No.
That's a no.
Okay, so where Commissioner Michaels has stepped out, we are 5-1 and Commissioner Michaels. stepped out.
Sure, I suggest, I see that there's some people here. I wondered maybe if we should talk about new business first. I don't know, I'm just wondering if people. New business items. And
Would you like to take items out of order?
anyway, let's. Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, administrative report. Oh,
I was hoping. Just very quickly, we received a safety enhancement grant for facilities for their air filtration and vacuum system in the shop. Amount of $1,358. We're still reviewing the interim final rule for the American Rescue Plan funds, as Clarice has already stated. And she has been involved in all of the meetings regarding rule interpretation. Probably will be for the next 100 years. Budgets are still being formulated for 2022. I am still reviewing employee evaluations in the sheriff's department and jail as they come to me. Upon review, it was discovered that the board did not vote on commissioners' meeting schedule in a formal vote. That'll be on the next agenda. You essentially said, yeah, let's take the 4th of July week off, but then never got back and officially voted that. So
okay.
that was brought to my attention. Had a meeting with my county colleagues, other administrators and managers, discussion of various issues they were all consumed with. Court cases rather, resuming with a huge caseload, and we're helping them with space needs, using this for times of jury when they're having breaks and that kind of thing. So we're helping them out with that. have reviewed the latest state COVID guidelines, and we're looking at, as we no longer need to, we will no longer require masks for those. Good question on that. Has the judicial branch, have they said what they're gonna do about it?
Right now-
About that issue specifically?
Right now, they're still requiring them for their people.
Right, I'm kind of imagining that they'll probably require them for anyone who's gonna be in court. And that's what I'm imagining, maybe I'm wrong.
That's
So-
very likely.
Okay. That's very likely. That seems like the marshals, or entering the building, the marshals, they're probably still gonna be enforcing that, right?
Well, not if you're, depends on what you're entering the building for. And they did that early on when they required it before we did. And they would ask, are you coming for county business or for the court? And if the answer was the court, then you had to do their requirements. If the answer was county, then they would allow the county owners to go.
Any other questions for the administrator?
Sure, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I couldn't hear exactly, he said something about coding requirements. He read through the coding requirements. The audio's in and out.
I was asking,
It's been
you know,
better.
if the branch's rules align with his statement of the change of policy from the executive branch. Maybe he's talking about the voting for the.
You're speaking of executive orders, Mr. Post?
What's that?
Were you speaking of the executive orders, the May 24th one?
Yes.
Or is there
Yes,
something
the new
different?
guidelines
Okay.
that just came out, which puts the state in conformance with CDC guidelines.
Yeah, guidelines.
Any other questions for the administrator? Okay. Does anyone have any objections to moving the comments from the public down to the same area of the discussion items and commissioner comments?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would object to that because people who are here may actually want to speak to some of the agenda items on this. People are allowed to, per the bylaws, speak to either a non-agenda item or a agenda item separately. That's per the bylaws. So I just want to make sure we are allowing people, the public, to give their input on whether it's Talking Brook, whether it's geographic, the geographic name recommendation for Talking Brook, commissioners meeting protocol, or the health freedom policy. Those should all be privy to the public being able to give their input because it does directly affect the public.
So if you are here and you'd like a comment to a non-agenda item, comments by the public by bylaws are for non-agenda items. We'll have, when we're discussing the agenda items, you'll have a chance to comment then also. But if you have a comment on a non-agenda item, and Dave, if someone on Zoom is indicating they'd like to speak, let me know.
Out of curiosity, how many participants do we have?
So we have 8 people online right now. So if anybody wants to speak from the public, please raise your hand. There's a little icon that will to raise your hand. And then I will turn on your mic.
Let's move on to the commissioner meeting protocol. And I will let the administrator introduce that. I think tonight is probably a great night to introduce this without problem.
Yes, it's very simple as the gatherings and the capacity are again being expanded and masks are being taken away and so on. The question is whether to discontinue. That's essentially the question.
Motion to discuss this item.
So moved.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
What was the motion?
To just go ahead and discuss the, where we passed the protocol before, we'll discuss.
Okay, I just have a question as to
Okay.
whether that's a positive motion.
Well, it's a motion.
Oh,
At this point, to
would you
discuss
rather-
it.
All right, would it be better if it was reworded to, I guess I don't know exactly what the final decision would be, so I don't know what the motion would be.
Okay.
What was the recommendation put together? Was there a recommendation put together?
Well, just what you have, and I, obviously, we would recommend that we do that, but that's up to you.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly, would you like to, this is the, what was put together, are you interested in changing the motion?
Yes. As gatherings and capacity again are being expanded, I move to discontinue the Zoom component of our meetings and return to in-person.
And Brian, are you still, is your second still stand on that? Okay, discussion, please. Yes.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think they're mutually exclusive, the in-person meeting versus the Zoom meeting. But a lot of communities have public meetings, and the Zoom component allows people from the public to participate at a higher level. And I think that's important for civil discourse and for governing. So I'm in favor of continuing. Clearly, you know, our technical issues today are a bit of a barrier, and don't want to continue with that. But we have managed to do it with success before. And I know that we can do it with success in the future, especially with more practice. So I think we should continue to allow it in case any of us need to participate that way, or just simply to have more transparency to government and more participation of government, because I think that's important. And being able to meet people where they are, which they are at their house, is important for just continuing that civil dialogue.
Yes.
Ditto on Commissioner Madura. It's nice to have people come here. It's easier, and I totally understand why that's tempting. Auburn, for instance, always has both, and they work quite functionally. So I think we should make an effort to allow people to participate, and not necessarily require them to come into the physical room. Handicapped folks, elderly folks may not want to make it over here. I don't think it'd be that much extra work for us to continue.
Okay.
Is there anything that we can do to, avoid issues like we're having tonight with the audio?
If we could get somebody that's more professional at this than I am, that'd be great.
Yeah, because it would discourage anyone from wanting to participate via Zoom.
Right. I'm a hack that's pretending to be a producer.
Well, I can,
I'm sorry.
It's not you, it's the technology.
Right. Yeah.
What we like about you, Dave, is you're honest.
Sometimes too honest.
Commissioner Larry.
in Mr. Cody's defense, he's set this up on short notice last year around April, May, whatever it was. And then over the past, 4 or 5 months, with few exceptions, due to circumstances beyond his control, he and his staff have done a great job making that happen. So I appreciate the work he's done, and I certainly commend him and their staff for it. And sometimes stuff happens. There's some glitches, but you've got the audio pretty good now. Other than I can't hear well, I can at least it's not echoing. So stuff happens. You're doing a great job, and I appreciate what you have done and your staff has done.
Thank you.
And just one more thing about comparison to other governments. A lot of our municipal governments actually broadcast their meetings live on TV. And I'd say we're probably one of the few of the local governments in the area that don't, from my understanding. Like, I think Greene does, Lewiston does, Auburn does, Poland does. So I think us adopting that is a step in a good direction.
Any other comments? Okay, are we ready to vote?
Were we adjusting it to keep it open as well, or?
Well, if you want to keep, so there's no misunderstanding, if you would like to, what, we want to come in? Commissioner Gordon?
Well, I was gonna say, if I vote nay, I'm voting not to discontinue the Zoom.
Right, yes,
But I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that
that's
I state my negative
No.
vote.
So a vote, and we're actually voting sort of backwards to what common sense would tell you because of the motion. If you vote yes, you are voting to discontinue the Zoom and go back to in-person meetings. A vote in the negative would be we're going to continue Zoom meetings and,
But then we're still open for full in public.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Vote on that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want there to be misunderstanding how people are voting, because it goes counterproductive to what you would think. So all those in favor of discontinuing the Zoom and going to all in-person meeting? And those that are in favor of keeping the Zoom open? And verbal, please. Commissioner Larry?
Voting nay to vote yes. I want to continue to allow the public and commissioners or staff if necessary, or anyone else to be able to attend in via Zoom or in person. Thank you.
Geographic name, and I have to say I don't know much about this, so I'm going to turn this over to the administrator to introduce.
Okay. You got the all 8 pages of it, I think, in the email that went out on Friday. And essentially, for whatever reason, and this was news to me, but and we got a request for the Androscoggin County Commissioners to make a recommendation about naming a tributary of Meadow Brook in New Gloucester and Auburn as Talking Brook. This was requested through the U.S. Board on Geographic Names, and they have asked us, Cumberland County, City of Auburn, and New Gloucester for our recommendation. I had first, and then a couple of weeks after we got it, they followed up again. And apparently really want us to determine whether we think that the name Talking Brook is appropriate for the brook that they're asking about. And Cumberland County has voted to approve. I think the town of New Gloucester they still, as of my last input with them, hadn't heard from Auburn and are open for us.
So as I took this, sorry, go ahead. There's no current name, there's no fee or cost associated to this. Correct?
No, that's correct.
Yeah, can we get a motion on the table then for discussion?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed name for this water tributary to Talking Brook as recommended by the Geographic Name Board.
I'll second that since I was starting.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. Okay, discussion. Yes.
So I have been there.
Oh, really?
I've been there.
There you go.
I've been there. I assessed it.
Oh, you have a conflict of interest.
Yeah. It was pretty, it didn't, I don't think it talked to me, got my foot wet. But the name seems fine to me.
The story, or the story regarding the origin of the name is very heartwarming by Michael Prewitt. So I'm No, absolutely in favor of changing the name.
Go on, tell us.
Oh, it's right here. It says that, this is in the 46 years since his family built a home here, he raised his family, created 7 miles of trails on the land that we now call Norumbega. As a nod to the history of our state and the first peoples who were here long before us, Talking Brook has been a constant feature that has not only brought us joy and comfort with its varying voice, but also a constant reminder with those voices that we are connected here to something elemental to our existence, a flowing energy that, although slowed by the dry season, never stops in its need to bring water out of these woods and eventually to the sea. That touched me. Yeah, so I am absolutely 100% in favor.
Any other comments? Yes.
I don't want to belabor much, but Mr. Freilich has not been donated exactly, but he has put in conservation a large portion of his parcel in New Gloucester. It's a nice walk, and walks along, I believe, this stream, and has some falls, and it's a very nice place to go for a walk.
Any other comments? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of this motion? Opposed?
I'm in favor.
Unanimous. Okay, health freedom policy. Commissioner Larry, I'll let you introduce it.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Does everybody have a copy of it? I sent it out the Wednesday before there. So. Okay, so basically, this health freedom policy is necessary because the county buildings were built by taxpayer money. They exist to serve the people of Androscoggin County. The people who work here were hired to serve the people of Androscoggin County, and we as commissioners were elected to represent the people of Androscoggin County. People have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, yet those rights have been seriously trampled by the governor over the past 14 months. We must take a stand to protect the people of Androscoggin County from vaccine passports or other such requirements to show proof of vaccinations or injections before they can enter the county building without a mask or enter the building at all. This is not conspiracy theory. As President Joe Biden has said, the rule is now simple: get vaccinated or wear a mask until you do. Never mind the fact that this injection is still experimental and only approved under emergency use authorization, but they are talking about mandating injections before you can breathe freely again without a mask. It reminds me of that line in the movie, The Net, give us the disc and we'll give you your life back. So I would just ask people, how would you like to be required to show proof of a medical intervention or procedure before you can walk into a building funded by your own tax dollars? This is not a partisan issue. There are liberals, conservatives, and libertarians, all that are very concerned with being coerced into taking vaccines or injections.
Okay. With that introduction, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the health freedom policy.
Larry makes motion and a second. One more call for a second. Seeing no
I'll
second.
second that. I'll second that.
Thank you.
Second, sir. And do we want commissioner comments first or comments from the public first? Or we can, would the commissioners like to hear the numbers from the public first, or do you want to tell them?
The commission should weigh in for
Okay.
different context.
Anyone that would like to comment on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment because it, I don't know, just, we have someone who's a physician of power who's saying things that doesn't really line up with the reality, at least the way I've read it. And that, like, Joe Biden said very specifically that that was a policy that he was not implementing, very specifically. So And there has been no discussion really of that. And the governor hasn't put anything forward of that nature either. So besides those, wrought with problems, just want to clarify any, that element of misinformation that's out there.
Any other commissioner comments before we go to the public? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Much of this matter has already been discussed at previous meetings. We've had the sheriff's been asked at least twice whether or not there's any inkling of any coercion into having people take vaccines. It's very, very clear not. Indeed, he acknowledged that our staff is probably half vaccinated. There's no indication that there's any pressure. No indication that there's any pressure on the staff either to have a vaccination. And the administrator has been very pro-freedom on the whole issue, the whole COVID thing, doing what he could to keep things as loose as possible. I think that the leadership of the county administration and the sheriff's office is very effective. We should be proud of that, and that this particular proposal, though I understand it, I know it means well. I think it's it's looking for a fight where there is no fight, and I'm going to vote. That's why I didn't. Well, it hasn't been seconded actually, so I'm going to vote against it.
I'm ready to take public comments. Okay, would someone from the public like to speak? You're welcome to speak to this. Go right ahead. Come right up. And just state your name and where you're from. If you could come up, I don't want to make you uncomfortable.
No,
That way
it's
Commissioner Lay
totally fine.
can hear you also.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Don Stroud, Lisbon. And when I saw that this was going to come out, very excited for it because, and I appreciate with your comment that there's potentially no concern. I work for college, and there's colleges that are already making it mandated. My concern is that this was a emergency use authorization vaccine. We've never ever had a mandatory vaccine. If we are asking individuals to have that done, I feel like my health is my privacy. And I guess I would say that I expressed some concerns that where maybe it's not happening yet, I think it's good to be out in front of it because my fear is people are already starting to ask. I've got friends up north, concerns of different stores that are asking already, are you vaccinated before you go in? And that puts people in a very uncomfortable position. My belief is your personal health is between you and your physician, and that's where it should be kept at. So again, the verdict isn't out on this vaccine, and I have some concerns. So,
Great, thank you.
Anyone else?
Will Henniston, Livermore Falls. I'd like to say, I know that the term mandate is kind of what people are getting hung up on. But when you look at the front page of the Sun Journal, they're already talking about where you can go if you have your vaccine and without a mask. They're already dangling that idea out there. And like the lady just said before, we need to get ahead of it. I just want to say, commissioners, I'm here today because people are scared. People I know are living in fear, and it's not of the coronavirus, but the rhetoric in our state. It's founded in the idea that you may have to get a vaccine to work, a vaccine to shop, or that you will have to get a vaccine passport to travel. This is about more than the COVID-19 vaccine, however. It sets a dangerous precedent. It's hard to imagine that in the land of the free, a person will have to prove that they've received any sort of medical treatment in order to live their life. I'd like to share with you for a moment a couple of stories that are very disheartening to me. A family member of mine pulled me aside the other day and said, I have no interest in getting this vaccine, but when they make it mandatory, I will. I asked, why would he bother? And he answered, because if not, how will I shop? How will I live?
He went on to say, I know people have gotten the vaccine and become ill shortly after, and some even got COVID immediately following their shot. He said that for days they were unable to function, and the fear in his eyes saddened me because I knew that in his mind, one day he may be mandated to get this vaccine that could make him sick, or if not, be cast out from society. Another story that reeks of tyranny is of a gentleman I met while making a casual conversation. He said to me as we're talking about the vaccines, I had no intention of getting it. He says, I have cancer. He went on to say, I've been battling cancer for 5 long years, and in order to receive my treatments, I have to go out of state. And at the hospital where I received them, they will not let me in without the vaccine. The only other option was to get a weekly COVID test, which according to him was quite unbearable. To him, there was only one option, which was to get the vaccine. I looked at him with sadness and frustration, knowing that in my mind, feeling for him in my heart, because 6 months down the road, who knows what's going to happen. It's well known within 15 days after receiving certain COVID vaccines, some people develop blood clots and die. My heart went out to them, angry and sad that a person felt like they had no choice but to get the jab. Though we can't control what other states and counties do, we can make a difference here. But no, I'd just like to skip over and say that I would like you to vote yes on Mr. Isaiah's freedom health policy. And I'd like to kind of read you a little poem that it's a remake. Let's see. It's a redone of Martin Nimmler, who was a survivor of a German concentration camps. And though I'm not trying to belittle, make light of what happened in Germany, but there are some parallels going on in this country, even though people don't want to see them. It goes, first they came for me, the poem is first they came for. First they came for the non-maskers and I said nothing because I wore my mask. Then they came for the non-vaxxers and they said nothing because I got my vax. Finally they came for me, but then there was no one left to speak out. Oh, America is about individual liberties, and it's high time we got back to being Americans in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you for your time, and God bless.
Great, thank you.
Anyone on Zoom?
Not at the moment. There was a gentleman, Jordan, he pulled his hand down.
Just for clarification purposes, I read the health freedom policy and I listened to Commissioner Larry's interview that he did last night on George Hale, Rick Kylo show. I was under the impression his freedom of health policy has to do with more personnel within the county building and nothing to do with the general public. Did I misunderstand something? Okay. I do have concerns when it references inmates because there's a whole process we have to go through to have them vetted. It has to go through DOC. So I don't know how you guys are going to vote, but I would suggest you create a hardship for us if the reference inmates is included. And as I've repeated numerous times, as sheriff, where I make policies within the agency, we have no intentions of coercing inmates or staff to do it. It's a personal choice. When asked a couple meetings back, should we create an incentive by the commissioners? I said no, because I don't believe that'll have an effect. It's a personal choice, and I respect that amongst not only employees, but the inmate population of the general public. But just cause of concern when I was reviewing the document that I had seen, Jeff and I talked about it, and that reference to the inmates involved in there. There was other concerning things because it creates human resource issues, but the direct reference to inmates would cause problems. Thank you.
Commissioner Sal, we do have one member of the public waiting, and Commissioner Larry also had his hand up.
We're doing public comment, right?
Nope, I'm just.
Thank you.
Jordan, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jordan. I live in Lewiston. And my main thing about this is I just want to know when is going to be the time for us to not be worried about it not being a problem yet. We need to take care of stuff now before it can become a problem. Whether President Biden or Governor Mills has put anything forward to do this, we need to act now to make it for we are okay. We have our people and we know what's going to be happening because like I said, whether he does it, whether they do it or not, shouldn't be an argument not to do it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dave, if there's no one else, will we something?
Just, I'm a little concerned as I'm hearing, what I'm hearing is that people are believing that this policy will affect people outside of the employees of Androscoggin County, and that is not true. It makes no difference to anyone, like county employees. And if you're working somewhere else, that it doesn't make any difference in that situation. And I had just a few thoughts and problems with it. As I read through this policy, proposed policy, first of all, I wasn't aware that Commissioner Poirier had changed his name to Roy. Second of all, policies for inmates are promulgated by the sheriff, as you just said, and approved by the Department of Corrections. And this hasn't been mentioned, but we can currently require an employee who has been out on medical leave to provide us with a doctor's note upon return to work. This is for the protection of the employee and the county. The current language in the proposed policy would prohibit us from requiring a doctor's note for return to work. And on several occasions, it's been stated that we have not and do not plan to require vaccine shots for our employees. This freedom policy, apparently the commissioner thinks we may change our minds. However, if we change your mind, the policy that's enacted, the board can simply change the policy.
The first line of Commissioner Larry's resolution, it does mention public, which means by people coming into the building for purposes of this business. Otherwise, the administrative point is well taken.
Yes, Commissioner Medora?
One of the reasons I seconded it is because I actually didn't think it should be on the agenda at all. Just kind of another thing that's, I don't know, there's no buy-in, and clearly there's no one here except for one person who is interested in passing such a thing. Thank you.
Madam Chair. I'd like to point out, I hope everyone can hear me. Madam Chair?
A final comment, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. To Commissioner Poirier, I apologize for messing your name up, sir. I do apologize. I can certainly change that, no problem. Mr. Post's thing, I can add, I'm certainly happy to add, a doctor's note for employees out on sick leave. And if we need to clarify something to make it clear that this is only for county, that's fine. But that was the intent, was to make it only for county buildings, not for Androscoggin County businesses, because we don't have that jurisdiction. I wish we had jurisdiction to help preserve people's freedoms, but we don't have that jurisdiction. However, the idea that because it has not passed yet means that it will not come. There's been a very obvious trend in the media for months now, basically a year plus now with COVID and other things, but especially COVID, where the media will complain about something for several weeks and months, and then it will come to pass. They've been complaining about no ability, or that there's going to be challenges finding out if someone has been vaccinated or not. And they basically highlight a problem and then swoop in government to fix that problem. And just because the governor has not changed her mind and decided to mandate vaccination of inmates, 70% of which on a typical average are pre-trial, but even non-trial, I would not want that said. And I appreciate the sheriff making sure that that is not being done at this time. However, that all changes as soon as a mandate comes down from the governor. She feels like doing it, boom, it's written, and it's basically treated as law. So I want us at least on the record saying we're not going to stand for that. And Governor Mills, you're welcome to do it, but we are going on record saying we're against it. And furthermore, If we are aligning our policies with CDC guidance, is what I believe I heard from Mr. Post, CDC guidance, new guidance, which allows fully vaccinated Americans not to wear face coverings indoors effective May 24th, 2021. This is the Maine to adopt US COVID guidance document, which I believe is the executive order. So to say that that this won't be necessary is actually not accurate. We're going to either be asking people at the door whether they've been vaccinated or not, or the marshals will. This will be coerced one way or the other. And it's time for us to take a step now to stop that ahead of time. And as for looking for a fight, that's not the case. I would hope that this commission would be willing to take this. And this has been sent out on Wednesday, the meeting before, as required by the bylaws. And I can respectfully tell most of the commissioners I asked for this to be added to the agenda last meeting. And you have had far more time to look at this policy and respond to me, which I've heard very little response. Far more than I as a commissioner normally get every Friday at 2 or 3 p.m. when I finally get the agenda and the policies and the documents that I'm expected to be up to snuff on and be able to share. No, this is to the subject, Madam Chair. This is to the subject.
Subject matter only.
This is to the subject. This is answering concerns that they haven't had time to consider it. So this is needed to protect freedom. And at least, if nothing else, we as commissioners can go on record saying, if Governor Mills wants to do this, because the rumblings are done first and then they write it, we're going on record saying we're not going to do this. I would ask and urge the commission to vote that through.
I'd like to call a question.
Call a question, okay. Okay, we have a motion to call a question.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm gonna write that down. And all in favor of passing the freedom health policy? What's that? Oh, vote on calling the question, okay? All in favor of calling the question? Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, 6-1. So we are calling the question. All in favor of the health freedom policy? Opposed?
Aye. I'm for it, Madam Chair.
Discussion items?
6-1, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair. Okay.
Yes.
Madam Chair, discussion items. I'm very concerned about the topic of the executive session we had. That was none of the discussion that was in there was protected under 456 C or any of the other subsections. And it was, I am concerned that it was likely used to defeat the purposes of the FOA chapter, which is not allowed. And when I raised that concern, raised concerns with the appropriateness of that, I was threatened that that was somewhere between a felony or misdemeanor. I'm wondering how that affects the Whistleblower Protection Act and why my questions I don't believe were answered during that session. It would have been at least appropriate to show, especially if you're maintaining that it was a good idea to keep that confidential, why the dispatch center merging was used for that, because there was no bargaining position that was going to be who were we bargaining against will be the question. So just because it might seem like a good idea to the commission, that should have never been done. And when I raised objections and requested information, I got none. I'm still waiting to hear from the legal information that you received. And I requested that, I think, Thursday, the meeting after. So I'm very concerned how business was done. And I want an apology for being threatened when I raised a legitimate point of order. That was shameful, and you should have never done that, Madam Chair.
Okay, other discussion items?
Madam Chair, I request an apology.
Other discussion items?
Chair, just, I do think potentially we could have been a little bit more clear about what we were going to executive session about in reference to the law. But I will say historically, in the past, say, 5 years, we have pretty much every time been very careful about it and read the exact language on what it was, or citing the statute. And that's partly why we started putting it on the back of the agenda to make sure that we're doing that. I do feel that it does fit C, subsection C. I definitely see why someone might think otherwise, because it's not, maybe it's not exactly clear, but we do need to be careful about, asking for information about what we discussed and talking about what we discussed, because that's kind of the whole point of the executive session. Not to say it's not that big of a deal, but it's a big enough of a deal that we shouldn't be kind of talking about the content of our executive session in public and casting doubt on our conversation.
Okay.
Is that okay if the sheriff decides to disclose it? We just decide to let the sheriff do it when he wants, but we have to keep quiet about it? That whole document was violated.
That is actually against the bylaws. You're not allowed to speak disrespectfully.
You violated them plenty, Madam Chair, over the years.
One of our staff members.
He's not staff, he's an elected official. Madam Chair, point of order, he is not staff, he's an elected official. The sheriff is an elected official who also is subject to FOA laws.
It's not your turn to talk.
Like to put the American Rescue Plan discussion for next month's next meeting.
Excellent.
Next month's meeting, which is
Let me
the
ask
next meeting, which is next month.
Do you, how would the board like to go forward? Do we want to workshop this?
Yes.
Or how would we like to go forward with this? We got a lot of work to do. It's exciting work and
Workshop.
workshop. Is that the consensus that we like workshop?
Madam Chair, why don't we have a public meeting and invite people to tell us? I remember Commissioner Michaels had referenced that idea of hearing from the public what they would like done with this money before we do a workshop.
Yes.
This commissioner would think that the commission would get together first, hash it around, and then certainly open up to the public at some point soon.
Yeah, and when people come to you with ideas, I mean, I've had town leads ask me to come out, they have ideas. And I certainly want to give them a time. I'd like them to come and present it themselves. So make sure you take notes of people that have something they would like to present before the board. Yeah, absolutely. We want to hear their ideas. There's all kinds of smart people out there that can give us things we haven't even thought about. So yeah, absolutely.
Madam Chair, I'd like to request a copy of the legal information that you got from the lawyer concerning my concerns I raised. I still have not seen that. I requested that Thursday, I believe, the meeting after, the day after the last meeting. So I still have not seen that, and it will be good.
Provided within the time frame of the policy.
The policy?
The 14 days, yes.
When was it? When did you receive it, Madam Chair?
It will make it in the time frame. I haven't received anything in writing. I have to ask for something in writing, but.
You said it was a conference call and there were no statements, so they should be available.
We'll make it within, let me assure you, we'll get it within that 14 days. Thank you. So, yes.
Just to clarify, are we picking a workshop date at this point? I don't know how this works. I'm new to the committee, so
do we want a workshop next week? Jump right into it?
Next week or the next meeting?
Next meeting, yes, thank you.
Yeah, we can just put it on discussion items on the agenda too. That's fine with me. Just not like, not decision-making time.
No.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot.
Discussing our options and what we
So
can.
is that what everyone would like? Is a workshop next meeting?
We want Larry to come back to all.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm concerned that I'm being strung along. I've been asking for that information, and that was a simple answer, because if you're going into executive session, you should have already known what it fell under and whether it met that criteria or not. So it was real simple to answer it, but I really feel like I'm being strung along. It's been a while. I'm going to wait a month before I get an answer to a legal question about an issue that is privy to the taxpayers and was held back by executive session illegally, I believe.
This on the agenda.
Yeah,
Larry
that's all I get. I guess so I need to
I want to say that I want this on the agenda.
You would like the future dates on the agenda, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Is that future matter?
The legal information, Madam Chair,
You have the floor.
please put that on the agenda.
Anything else?
The legal information, Madam Chair, please put that on the agenda. Madam Chair,
I think we should think about putting on the agenda that we should censure Isaiah.
No, look,
This is
Yeah, we do that.
too much,
I mean, that's,
too much.
yeah, too much.
Madam Chair, I request that the legal
Please shut up while I'm
information
talking.
be. I'm sorry, I can't hear. I'm sorry, I
Well-
can't hear.
You can't see my lips either, so you're in a tough place. Okay.
It's not my fault.
Future
You guys
agenda.
voted for the mask mandate.
The meeting of July 7th. I would encourage the chair to cancel that meeting and replace it at another time, probably.
That's already canceled on the.
Oh, never mind.
We're gonna vote on it.
Never mind.
Okay, so yeah, and that'll all be next week, so we'll
Yes.
catch that all up.
All you have to do, and you actually canceled it by discussion, but then we didn't bring it back and vote on it when we
Okay.
brought the new.
So everybody knows. I'm gonna-
Yeah.
Point of order, we're not actually able to do anything except by action order resolve, not discussion.
Isaiah speaking.
Point of order, Madam Chair, we're not actually able to do anything by action order resolve, or it has to be by action order resolve. Discussion doesn't count, so the discussion didn't pass it.
No matter how you felt about the money coming down, I mean, it's going to be here. I mean, a lot
It
of
is
us,
here.
a lot of us are a little concerned about this much money falling and what it's going to do in the future, to interest rates and where it comes with it. So it's here, and we want to really use this to help the county and the towns and the people the best we can. So it's exciting to jump into this next week. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, have you added my request to the agenda that you present the legal information? Madam Chair, it is inappropriate for you to ignore a commissioner. Shame on you, Madam Chair. I've asked 6 times. How many
Are
times do
you
I have to ask
opposed
you? When you-
or,
I have asked you to add something to your agenda and you flatly ignore me. That is shameful, Madam Chair.
Every single weekend, it seems to be like. Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I vote no.